Haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Beis Halacha Gimel, the new Mishnah. Our Mishnah discusses the 13 shulchanos that were mentioned in the first Mishnah in the Perek. The position of these 13 tables as well as their purpose. Now, to appreciate the positioning of these 13 tables, we have to have a clear picture as to the setup of the Beis HaMikdash. And therefore, let's picture for ourselves a person is walking through Shar Nikanor, through the Ezras Nashim into the Azara. And the Shar Nikanor is on the east side. That means we're walking towards the west. In front of us, towards the south, is the Mizbeach, the outer Mizbeach, where the ramp goes towards the south. And if we go in front, closer west, so then we will have in front of us the Ulam, which is the entranceway until the Heichal, the Kodesh, and then, of course, the Kodesh Kadoshim. Says the Mishnah, Yud Gimel Shulchonos Hoyu Bamikdosh. There were 13 tables situated in the Beis HaMikdosh. Ches Shel Shayish Bebeis HaMitbachayim. There were 18 of granite stone that were placed in the Beis Mitbachayim, which is on the north side of the outer Mizbeach. In that area, this Beis Mitbachayim was used to then slaughter the korbanos, to then take off their skins, to cut them in pieces, and also to rinse them off. The Mishnah goes on to say, She'alein meidichin es hakrevayim. In order to then bring the oila offering, we first have to then rinse off the innards and then place them on the Mizbeach. So these tables were used to meidichin es hakrevayim, to rinse off the innards of these korbanos. Ubeiz b'marav hakevesh. There are 2 additional tables on the west side of the ramp of the Mizbeach. Echad shel shayish ve'echad shel kesef. One was made out of granite, while the second one was made out of silver. Al shel shayish noistin es ha'evorim, ve'al shel kesef klei sharis. On the one that was made out of shayish, granite, they would put the evorim of the carbon, and on the one that was made out of silver, they would place the klei shares, the vessels that were used for the avodah. The Mishnah goes on to say, Beis be'ulam. There were also 2 in the anteroom, mifnim al pesach habayis. Again, that's the area that is then the entrance way towards the Heichal. Echad shel shayish ve'echad shel zohav. 2 tables were placed there in that ulam. One made out of shayish, granite. The second one out of gold. Shel shayish noisin lechem aponim b'knisosoi ve'al shel zohav b'yitziosoi. For the granite one, they would put the new breads that they were going to then place and put on the shulchan inside the heichal. The second one that was made out of gold, they would use when they would take out the bread from the previous week. They would place it on this golden table. The Mishnah concludes the final 13th shulchan, echad shel zav mibifnim shalav lechem aponim tamid. That's, of course, what we call the classical shulchan. That's the golden Mizbeach that is inside the Heichal, and that's where the Lechem Haponim, the 12 showbreads, are placed. The Gemara points out the following brisa, which is different than our Mishnah. Tani, al shel kesef. It states in regards to the Lechem Haponim, it says that it wasn't 2, as our Mishnah states, one made out of shayish and one made out of gold. The one made of shayish was used to place the new showbreads on before it was put onto the golden shulchan. But rather, the Brisa says it was made out of silver, not out of shayish. Rabbi Yosi b'shem Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yitzchok, Rav Chananya mati bo b'shem Rabbi Yochanan, les kan shel kesef mibnei shehu martiach. Our Mishnah does not say, like the Brisa, that this shulchan of Knisasoi is made out of silver, but rather is made out of shayish. Why? The Gemara says, because if it was made out of silver, it could cause then to heat up the showbread, and therefore lead to the showbreads becoming spoiled. Ask the Gemara, Lo Kain Tani, did we not teach in the following, learn in the following brayso? Ze echad min anisim shenasu bebeis hamikdash. This is one of the miracles that took place in the Beis Hamikdash. Shekeshem shehayu menichin oisoi choim, kach hayu motzin oisoi choim. Just as they would place it in the shulchan, it would be hot. So too, when they would take it out, it would be hot. So it was a miracle that it would never spoil. Even though it was there for the entire week, it would stay fresh. Shneimar, this is in the Pasuk. The Pasuk says, Losum lechem choim, bayoim biyom hilok choy. The Pasuk pshat is, they would put hot breads in the day that they would take out the previous week's breads. But the Gemara is learning that not only was the new bread choim, but also the old bread was also choim. In other words, it stayed fresh. So ask the Gemara, how could we be concerned about the shulchan as being made out of shayish, so we'll keep it cool and fresh, and not make it out of silver like the Brisa says, which could then cause it to be warm and lead to spoilage? We know that that's something that would never happen, because it was one of the nisim that took place in the Beis HaMikdash. Answers the Gemara, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Omar, Ein mazkirin ma'asen nisim. We don't rely on miracles, and therefore we do everything that we can to then indicate that it will not lead to spoilage. Even though in a Chanami, a nace took place in the Beis HaMikdash, keeping the showbreads fresh from week to week. Now that we're discussing Lechem Aponim, the Gemara asked the following question. Boi kumi Rabbi Ilo. They asked the following question to Rabbi Ilo. Lo yehoyo shom lechem. Let's say there was no lechem to put for the new week's showbreads. Mao, what should we do? Lahanicho l'shabes habo. So what's the Gemara's question? Either the Gemara is asking one of two things. Either the Gemara is asking that we're talking about where we didn't have initially lechem aponim to place and replace. Therefore, only in the middle of the week when we got the lechem aponim, granted, it will be possible because it was not 7 days sitting there in the shulchan. But nonetheless, when we do attain the breads, we will then put them on lechem aponim nonetheless. Or no, or we say, the question is like this, that we never had new showbreads, and since we never have new shows, can we leave the old pre-existing lechem aponim on the shulchan? Take a look at the Korban Ha'eda, who speaks out the question. He says, Lo hayashem shom lechem. Says the Korban Ha'eda, L'sader b'Shabbos u'betoich yemei hashavua. Even though we didn't have bread to then replace it with, but in the middle of the week, nizdamin lohem, they did get bread. Mau, what's the din? Lahanichom melesader ad Shabbos habo. Should we go ahead and place them nonetheless until the upcoming Shabbos, even though it won't be a full week? Or Dilma, Afagashu Pasul, the Koshalo Avro Alav Shiva Yomim Ala Shulchan, Pasulhu, Mikol Mokum, the Kai Mitzvahs Lechem Aponim, Lefonai Tomid, Ein Lahanichoi, below Lechem. No, the first side was saying that since indeed we didn't have breads from the beginning, and therefore we should not place them until the next coming Shabbos. And the second side is that no, nonetheless, even though it's true it will be possible, because we didn't have them for all 7 days, but nonetheless, whatever days we can have them on the shulchan is still going to be a fulfillment of having lechem haponim lefonai tomid. Inami, or alternatively, the questions like this. Lo haya shom lechem la'arech b'yom haShabbos. They didn't have bread to place on Shabbos. Mau lahaniach halechem harishon ala shulchan. Sharei lo hiskalkel gam haShabbos habo. Miu pasul hu mishum lina. Should we leave that same pre-existing bread for the coming week, since we know that there's a miracle that will take place, keeping it fresh? But nonetheless, it'll be possible because of lina. It's staying there overnight. Answers the Gemara, Omar loin. He said to them, Ksiv, it says in the pasuk, V'nosata ala shulchan lechem ponim lefonai tomid. You shall place before me The lechem hatponim, always before me. Lechem ponim afilu posul, indicating even if the lechem is going to be posul, still there's a fulfillment, at least as much as possible, that it'll be lechem haponim lefonai tamid. It'll be before me. Says the Gemara now, bring the following brisa. Asara shulchanos asa shloimoi. Shlomo HaMelech made 10 shulchanos. In addition to what we have as the classical shulchan, the golden shulchan that is inside the Heichal, he also made 10 additional shulchanos. Dichsiv, for it's written in the Pasuk, Vayas shulchanos asara. Vayonach beheichal chamisha miyamin v'chamisha mismol. He's commanded to then place 10 shulchanos in the Heichal, 5 to the right and 5 to the left. Now, from 5 to the right would seem to indicate 5 to the Tzofoin, and 5 to the left would indicate to the Doroim. The Gemara says, "V'haloi ein hashulchan kosher ele b'tzofoin." But we know that the shulchan must be placed dafka in the Tzofoin of the Heichal. Shneimar says in the pasuk, "Ves hashulchan titain al tzel Tzofoin." You have to put it on the northern side. So how can it be that he placed 10 shulchanos, indicating that 5 of them are the northern, but 5 of them are also on the southern? Matamulam, the Gemara explains, what does it mean when it says chamisha miyamin v'chamisha mismol? Ela chamisha miyamin shulchana shel Moshe v'chamisha mismolo. In respect to the shulchan of Moshe, which was in the northern side of the Heichal, so it will be 5 on the right and 5 on the left, and therefore they will all be situated in the northern side. Now the Brisa continues. Afal Pikein, nonetheless, even though there's an additional 10 shulchanos that Shlomo HaMelech made, lo hoya mesader el b'shel Moshe bilvad. They would only place the lechem haponim, the 12 showbreads, on the shulchan that Moshe Rabbeinu had, the classical golden shulchan. Shneimar says it's a shulchan ashil alov lechem haponim. Here it says in the singular that the shulchan that upon it is the lechem haponim. Rabbi Yossi be Rabbi Yehuda Oimer al kulan hav mesad. He argues and he says no. Sometimes they're placed on one shulchan, sometimes they placed in another shulchan, but they were used as well. Shneimar, he brings a pasuk es hashulchanois v'aleim lechem haponim. Here it says the lashon of plural es hashulchanos v'aleihem, upon them shall be the 12 showbreads.